Hello and welcome to Adventures in Visibility. I am really excited about today's adventure and this show because I have a rock star guest today, and we are going to be talking all about how you can create and plan, maybe it should be plan and create your visual content so that you stand out amongst all that crazy amount of content that's out there. I'm Denise Wakeman, your host and guide to better visibility on the web, and I am pleased to introduce you to Peg Fitzpatrick. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information about her. I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. She is a rock star in social media. Peg is the co-author of the soon-to-be published book, The Art of Social Media, Power Tips for Power Users with Guy Kawasaki. And we're going to be talking about that in a minute. Social media is Peg's passion and her job. She shares her professional experience working day-to-day in the trenches of social media, marketing, and blogging. Peg works with global brands and leaders in the social media sphere every day. She's spearheaded successful social media campaigns for Motorola, Audi, Canva, Google, and Virgin, as well as having been a brand ambassador. Peg, you there with me?
I am. You froze on me again. I was just checking in the green room to see if you're freezing there too.
Oh my goodness. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here today, but welcome. I don't know if you heard my introduction of you, but I was introducing you.
Well, if you missed it, you can go look at my bio. There's, it's always, you can just check on our bios. There's all kinds of stuff on our bios if you missed it. Thank you so much for having me on Adventures on Visibility. Adventures in Visibility. You have to say it right, otherwise it's Adventures in Invisibility. Then you can be invisible. But
exactly.
Yeah,
go from invisibility to visibility.
Exactly. Perfect.
So the first thing I want to do is congratulate you on the relaunch of your website. It is beautiful.
Thank you. And now I have to get writing.
Well, it's hard to keep up with the blogging when you're also doing the design, right?
It is, and I was staying off of it while it was being worked on because you don't want to mess things up when it's being tweaked. So now I will, number one, I'll be writing about this hangout soon, so that'll be something to look forward to. But I love writing. I'm sure you feel the same way. Blogging is just fun. So it's like the
prolific blogger too. I see your article all over the place. That's just astounding. And I think that's part of one of the reasons that really attracted me to want to speak with you, because you are not only writing a book, you blog all over the place, you're all over social media, you're extremely visible, and I think for the audience it'll be interesting to hear how you do that. And one of the things that really stands out for me is that your content stands out, and a big part of that is the visual design of it, the images you use. And I'm just curious, have you always been interested in visual design or graphic design or art? Did you study art?
Actually, I'm a theater kid. I would just label myself as a huge creative person. I love doing creative things. Creative things make me happy. Jobs like accounting, where you're counting, doing like detail stuff, I am really good at those, but they don't make me happy in my heart. Like, I'm happy when things balanced, but it doesn't give me the same kind of creative joy. So I started my life as I like to color like everyone else. That's why I go way back to the day. I just like to express myself in different ways, and whether that was through theater, singing. I like to dance, but I can't say I'm a dancer because I never really took dance lessons. Writing is something that I do now. Craft stuff is something I did before the internet. So I think it's just kind of like I evolve into different creative things that I love to do. Part of the, I'm not a trained graphic designer. I'm not a graphic designer. I make things for myself and sometimes for client work that Guy and I do together. But you're doing a good job when big brands send you an email saying that looked amazing. How did you do that? So I think I do
Well,
a pretty good job for a non-designer. That being said, if you're not a designer and you really can't pull things together, there's no problem with hiring someone to do your graphic design. So the things that we're talking about, you can either do yourself or you could have someone else do it for you. You could have someone create templates for you. So whatever we're talking about, give it a try. If your stuff, if you ask people and they're like, ask people who you trust, and if they say that it's good, then that's good. But you have to ask some people that you trust. One of the things that you said that was interesting is, that my personal brand has like a style for my design, and I have to tell you, Rebecca Radice, who you just had on your show last week, she's my online bestie, and we talk all day long on Facebook. We constantly bounce ideas off of each other and share things. It's part of the reason that we're both so branded, because we've actually spent a long time fine-tuning what our visual brand looks like and finding what we like and finding what works. And we both have different styles, and that's on purpose, because we don't want our things to be the same, because you don't want your visual brand to look like someone else's visual brand. Even if you really love someone else's stuff, that's great, but the goal is to come up with your own style that reflects who you are and who, what kind of things you like, which is, that's like my blog makeover, I love to death, and I think it really reflects who I am, what I like. I like antiques, I like typewriter. I have a typewriter, which you can't see because it's over there. I don't have the black one. I have a blue one that types in cursive writing, which is super cool. And I just picked a different color. Like, I totally just did everything. And because I chose it myself, I really love it. And people have said that they feel like it really reflects me. So part of it is trusting what you like and creating a visual brand. I created a brand, and now I have the color that what I will use all the time. It's important to remain consistent with your brand. That's what makes it noticeable. That's why people see, that's, my post on Google Plus or Pinterest. They can see that it's something that I created, whether it has my name on it or not. And that's you want people to just like it. It doesn't matter necessarily if it's yours or not, but sometimes I'll see stuff. Actually, Jeff C makes amazing videos, and I saw a video and I was like, I sent it to him. I'm like, did you make this one? And he was like, yes, because I could tell it was his amazing style. So coming up with your visual brand is not something that necessarily happens overnight. It takes time, and you need to be patient and change things and work on it, and find some people that you trust that you can bounce things off of, and your brand will evolve over time. Everybody's work evolves over time. Our first blog post that we ever wrote were not the same as the ones we posted a year later or 2 years later.
no.
Sometimes you go back and you're like, hey, I wrote something pretty good. And then sometimes you go back and you're like, why did I publish that? It can go either way, but it's an evolution. So there's that little quote that says, don't compare your end game to someone else's end game to like your middle game. There's some quote that has something to do with that. And I think that in the online world, people do get caught up in comparing themselves to other people, and that's something that you really just kind of need to get over with, and just you need to not focus on other people, but focus on yourself and your best game. Like, everything for me is like, I just need, you can have a great social media day, lots of retweets, lots of shares, but when you wake up tomorrow, you're starting all over again, and it's a brand new day in social media. So, you have to bring your A game all the time, and I compare myself only to me. I do not compare myself to other people, because that's not a winning game. That's not a winning strategy at all. If you're going to worry so much about how many shares Denise got and how come she got more, that's negativity you just don't need.
I agree. Thank you for saying that. And I love what you're saying, that you only compare yourself to you, because really nobody is you. And well, we could go on that, but I'd like to come back to the idea of the fact that there's so much emphasis on visual content now, that how do you determine what is quality And how do you assure, what do you do to assure that your visual content is of really high quality?
Okay. Well, the first thing is that you have to make sure you have permission to use the photos. That's one of the things that I learned along the way. I think we all kind of learned along the way. We didn't realize that it's not okay to just take things and share it as your own or add text on it. It's easy to go on Google and add text on an image, but if you don't own it, you really can't do that. So part of it is just knowing what you have permission to use. I have used Flickr a lot in the Creative Commons because you can search for things that you have permission to use. Dustin Stout has a great post on where you can find images that you can legally use, and I'll put a link in there. I don't know if Dustin's watching. If he's there, maybe he'll put it in, but if not, I will find it, or Denise will find it, and we'll throw it into the event for later. But the quality does count. You want to make sure that your images aren't blurry, that your text isn't pixelated. You can see those things when you upload it. I used to use a service that when I would create Facebook covers, every time I loaded it, I would spend forever making these Facebook covers. I would load it into a client account, and it would be, all the text would be pixelated. And I see people that just leave it like it's blurry. Don't leave it if it's blurry. You need to find other way to do it. Avatars are another thing that I think people don't focus on good quality. They're so afraid of using a picture that they use some picture from a party from 6 years ago when someone's next to them and they crop the person out and you can see someone's arm or hair, and it's not a good picture. I mean, I have to say I've used a lot of selfies for avatars, probably, and that's really not advisable, but I think mine were pretty good. Of course, everybody thinks that, right? But you do want to make sure that they're the right size and all the different things. There's a lot of good content out there about how to get good avatars, take good avatars. They need to be high quality. I still see some that, they'll be like pixelated or stretched, or, if it looks distorted at all, that's the only calling card that you have. Is you're not there. You're not going to be like, hi, my name's Denise. This is what I look like. They're going to see like a weird, wonky picture of you, and you don't want that. So it takes a little time, but not that long, and you need to make sure that you're uploading the right sizes and all those things. And there is a lot of content. Again, I'll put links in there for that. But and other photos that you use for like social media and blog posts, like if you write a great blog post, it's just as important to have a great image. Whether you share it as a separate image or you're embedding the links on Facebook or Google+, these images are being pulled in. Again, you aren't there to say, Denise, you should click on the little arrow and click the next one so it looks good. It's your job as a blogger to make, don't you wish you were there? Because It kind of crushes my heart a little bit when you see like your blog post and it's got like part of a logo or something. You're like, no, click the arrow. But you can't do that. So the only thing you can do is to make sure that you use great images that are pulling in properly, or that you're sharing. Sometimes if there is no big image, I don't like to share it if it's just a link, so I will create my own pinnable image to use on Pinterest, because to me, if I'm going to share it on Pinterest, it has to have a good image. I use Pinterest for bookmarking. That's the biggest reason I use Pinterest, is to create my own resource boards, and I like them to look nice. So I will create a big image for Pinterest at 735 by 1102. I've also been playing with doing 735 by 735 for a square image because it's still maximum width. I'm considering that. But you just need to look around and see what other people use, see what things you like, and get ideas. But then I really highly encourage you to create your own brand style so your things look unique and interesting, and so your followers know, whether you're there or not, that is Denise, that is Dustin, that is Rebecca. It's important to have your own visual brand so people know that it's you. It's a calling card. It's all the pieces together of your brand. It's what you share, how you share it, how you say things, your tone of voice. All those things go together. And the thing that people see first is the graphic, is the image. So it's just, I can't stress enough, when you see blogs that don't have images on them today, I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, I don't know what I don't know what they're thinking
Right.
because they're
Well,
not going to share well.
yeah, exactly. And I think that that's a really important point for, anyone who is working online, which is basically everyone at this point probably, or at least a large number of people, is that if you're creating content, whether it's for a blog post or a social media post, whether it's for Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook or Twitter, that it's no longer it doesn't work as well anymore if you're not paying attention to dimensions, and these things do change and evolve over time. So
Yeah.
it's really your responsibility as a content producer to find out what are the right dimensions so that you're posting something that does look good. Because
Right.
I'm the same way. I've gotten to the point where if I see a blog post without an image or a weird image or a really small image, or if I'm on LinkedIn and I see a crunched up picture of somebody, I think you didn't bother to take the time.
Right.
Are you really serious about what you're putting out there for the public to see? And for the
Yeah.
most part, we're in business. I mean, the people I know and look at, they're in business. So, that's that first impression.
So yeah, one of the things that Guy and I talk about in presentations that we do is do things past the reshare test. And that's the key for you and I sharing it. We both just said it. Like, we will share this post if it has to have a lot of criteria. Is it really good content? Yes. Is the title good? We can change that easily, right? You can change the title easily. If there's no image or a bad image, will you take the time to make a new one? Maybe. It has to be really good content, though.
Yeah.
Because they didn't bother to do the image, but are you gonna take the time to create the image? If it's really good, I will. But you don't have time to do that for every single post that you see. So help people, find your content reshareable. Especially, I know you work with authors a lot and getting their word out. If you're an author, you have got to have good visuals because people are going to share it. The post that I wrote for Future of Ink, I loved that I created like a little fake campaign. It was super fun to put together. It's your book. It's so fun to do. That one wasn't a real book. I just made something up. But you have to take pride in your work, and part of that is presenting it in the best way that you can.
Yeah. Yeah, you really can't get away with not doing that anymore. And if you have to hire someone to do it, then so be it. But don't get lazy about it. And that post that you wrote on creating images for authors for a book campaign was brilliant because it really made it very clear how you can do it without a lot of work. I mean, you found one image and then just adjusted it.
Right. It's one of my little cheats. I've shared some little tips that to make it easy, because you don't want the goal isn't to make things as complicated as possible. That's not our goal. No. Our goal is to make things get shared as much as possible, because if you're writing or doing social media, you want people to find your book or your blog post or whatever it is. So to do that, you need images. Now, if you don't want to create a whole bunch of different sizes of images, you need to pick what your most popular platforms are and make the image that works there. Google Plus is the best. You can use any size image. Google does not care. They won't make it weird looking. So thank you, Google Plus, for being amazing for us. Instagram is only square. So no matter what you try to share there, it's going to eventually be a square. So some things work, some things don't. It used to be awesome when Facebook was also square, but it's not. Facebook is the one place where it will really get pixelated or wonky looking or just cut off. And Twitter will cut the edges off, but you could still make something and put your content in the middle of it, and Twitter's pretty good about that. But I find it's really worth it to make images for Twitter because they just get retweeted and shared so much more than the same exact text without an image.
One of the things I found, I mean, I'm a little bit lazy about some of this, so, I confess, but what I have found that if I at least make a Twitter image for my blog post, that seems to translate the best across most platforms, that, it won't get too weird. where a square gets cut off or
Right.
whatever. But I find that the Twitter image, at the minimum, that's what I do. Minimum.
Yeah. And then do you try to put your text in the middle so at least
Yeah.
it kind of like, yeah. I mean, sometimes in the effort of not going insane and saving time, you have to choose, you know. I
Hmm.
don't have time to make 5 different images. What's going to work best? For me, if I only had one image, I would make a Pinterest image, but I would put the text in the middle so when it tweeted, it would work. You know, it will go on Facebook. It will look weird when it's on the page, but it will be good on the news feed. I mean, these are the things that can make you crazy. If you try to be perfect at every single one, you don't need to. Just pick what your most popular platforms are and make good images. You know, if nothing else, you have one really good image in a size that people can do what they want with. So,
Right. You know, I love that you just said that about, pick your platforms, but also this is a great tip, folks. Put your content in the middle, and that way it's going to work the most in the most places if that's all you have time. So, Peg, I have a question because I know you were, an brand ambassador for Canva and their social media marketing person for a while. So I'm going to ask you a question. I hope you don't mind. We didn't
go
talk
for
about
it.
this before, so I'm kind of throwing you something. Is there a way on Canva to make one size and then have it adapt to other sizes?
There is not at this time. I do believe, I know, it's so that would make me happy too. But there, at this time, there's not. I'll tell you what I do, Denise. This is my super secret, top secret,
Good.
only sharing with you, not like we're live on a Hangout, tip that I use to make image. I make one image in the size that I want. I don't do it when I know I want to use it for a bunch of different sizes. I don't do a picture for the whole background. But I say I'm going to create a Twitter image. I put the text in the middle, and I use color in the background. I use a solid color background. You can drag and drop that into other Canva design sizes, and then just make the background the same color, and it blends all together.
Yes.
It totally works too. But you can't do that with a picture or anything else. It has to
Right.
be, so you have to keep in mind that you're going to be doing that and just create. I usually do it with a tweet because it's that nice long rectangle. I get the text in the middle and then I put it in, like, say, maybe a Pinterest post, and I just make the background the same color. And I haven't seen any other way to do it faster or more efficient, but
Okay.
that's what I do. So sometimes
Excellent.
we'll drag and drop the other sizes in and mess with the background a little bit that way. So
Okay.
hopefully that'll be something that they'll have in the future because that is one of their most frequently requested things.
Okay, so I'm not the only one. Good. Yeah, that's one of those things is like, oh, I love this tool so much,
Hmm.
but if I want to create an image for every platform, the same
Yeah,
image basically, then I
right.
have to do it 5 times or whatever. And it's like,
No,
I
I
don't have time
know.
for that. That's why I get lazy and just do a Twitter image. But now I'm going to apply your tip.
Try it. Yeah, and I haven't shared that with anybody. That's my like top secret way that I do. It's a little cheaty workaround, but it works pretty well.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, guys. Okay, I have got a question from Jeff C.
Ah, good question, Jeff. Can I
Yeah,
talk about the balance of sharing personal versus business? No, Jeff, I cannot talk about that.
oh, please, please.
Oh, okay, wait, I will because we're on a hangout. Um, okay, so way back in the beginning when I was on social media, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I used to have this discussion with people about, should you only share business things? Should you share personal things? Should you do a balance? I chose to do a balance because I like to say that I'm a multifaceted jewel, that I have all these different sides to me. I honestly could talk about social media all day long and I could post only about that. I would be really happy with that. I think other people would probably be bored. So I do share other things that I'm interested in. And Pinterest really opened my eyes to that, where it's really okay to share other things. When Pinterest was brand new, it used to be weird when somebody would tweet and say, I really like your cupcake board. And I would be like, oh, that person's like looking at my personal Pinterest pins, but that's why we put them there. But it was weird because all of a sudden people knew all these things about you. But guess what? That's okay. People know I like to travel. People know I like my cupcake board. So I think it's actually a way that people learn another level, another thing about you. One of the important things to keep in mind is that, whether you try to stay all business or personal and try to do them separately, clients and people always see your personal stuff anyway. So there really is no keeping separate. So I always keep that in mind because I work for Guy wouldn't care really what I shared. As long as I wasn't like offensive and swearing, I don't think he would necessarily care. But I also work for a German chemical company that's very conservative in everything I post. I think, what would the people that own this company think if they saw this? So if you have the idea that you want to work with people, work with clients, you need to keep in mind that they see everything, whether you're posting it for personal or for business. It's all blended into your online Google search with your name. Yeah. So so that was just a little caveat to that. I do share business and personal. I don't share a lot. I share on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, in Instagram, maybe more personal stuff than I do other places. I share personal things on Google Plus, but not as much. It just seems like it's going to, well, at this point, I have almost 600,000 followers. So that's going to like a lot of people. I'm not going to post, my really personal things. I do share some things, and when I do, people love it. I just kind of, I don't share as much of it, but I think it's an important way that people learn to know you and trust you and see different layers of who you are. So I think that you should share personal things and business things, but keep in mind that, you should, in my opinion, you shouldn't be negative because people are going to see that. You shouldn't be rude. You shouldn't swear. I know that there's people that do. Gary Vee's very successful. He does it. It works for him. But for me, that isn't something that I would do. One of my friends works with a very large brand as a brand ambassador, and they checked everything back for a year in all of her accounts, her LinkedIn, her Twitter, everything. So if you had a bad day and went and had a little Twitter, fight with someone and were inappropriate, that could lose you a job down the road. So those are the things that I think about. I do share personal stuff and business stuff, but I always keep the other things in mind too.
Yeah. Basically what you're saying is what I follow as well. And I think what's important is that you can choose what to share. Mm-hmm. It's not, you don't have to share every single personal thing in your life. So, I've made choices about the personal stuff I'm going to share because for a long time I didn't either. I mean, I was business all the way, period. That was it. Right. And then when I started opening up and I started talking about my running, I started talking about my traveling, the causes I support, my cats, you want reaction, share a pet, and that's going to endear you to, a lot of people. But it wasn't calculated like that. It was just like, okay, there are other sides to me. And like you said, it ups that know, like, and share. So
it definitely does. But as your social media following grows, when you get to, it kind of changes because you temper a little bit more of what you share. Because like my family doesn't really want to be in my husband hates being in my pictures. He's like, I don't want all those people I don't know to see my picture, but I still post them on Instagram sometimes.
I saw that when you were in Italy.
We were in Italy. But so you have to take that in mind. Like my kids want photo approval. I have a new grandbaby, which I haven't posted on Google Plus yet. And I asked my son, I'm like, can I post a picture? He was like, yeah, we want him to be Insta famous. I'm like, yay. But, I'm kind of cautious because I don't want to share too much. You have to share enough without sharing too much. It is balanced stuff. So
yeah, it's interesting you talk about the baby because a friend of mine just had twins, and I got the announcement and it said, please do not forward or share on social media. It's like, interesting. Wow. You never had to say that before, right? But some people are, I appreciate that. I totally appreciate and honor it. Okay, so we're at the bottom of the half hour right now. Okay. Time always flies so fast. One thing I wanted to ask you about, you have written about a 5-step plan for your visual content. So I think that might be a good place where we can kind of wrap all this up. Can you talk a little bit about that? What your 5-step plan is? What you recommend for people to do?
Okay, so my quick 5-step plan, I'll have to find where I wrote that in a blog post. I'm sure I have a really long, detailed one somewhere. But I would say number one, create your content that fits your message is. It goes with your blog or what you're trying to share. Number two, I would say find images that you have permission to use that go along with your content. You want your content and your image to match. You know, they all need to go together. Add your branding if that's something that you are comfortable doing and it's something that you want to do. If it's about your book, add your book name on there, you know, by famous author Denise Wakeman, whatever you want to add on there, your blog URL so people can find the rest of it just in case. You know, the reason for doing that, adding the branding, which some people don't like, but the reason is it's easy for the blog post to get separated from the image. I just found one of mine the other day on Pinterest that somebody put their own link to a totally different topic, but they liked my graphic, obviously, which had my name and my information on it. So that happens. If your content gets separated from your image, you want them to be able to find the blog post later. That's why you would add your URL somewhere on there.
Excellent tip.
Yeah. I pin my images first. So for me, Pinterest is the mecca of blog traffic, long-term traffic, all kinds of happiness for your blog. So I make a big image, I pin that first, and then I share it other places with the pin it for later link. So I tie my Pinterest in with other things, and since I've been doing that, Pinterest has been number 1 or 2 traffic referral on my blog. Even though I spend infinite hours more on Google+, Pinterest is still driving more traffic to my blog with much, much less work. So if you haven't tried tying Pinterest in with your Google+, I encourage you to try it because they go together very, very well.
I think I learned that tip from you a while back. I've been watching you for a long time there, Peg.
Does it work for you too, Denise?
It does work. It does work. Although I have to say that Google has become my top traffic source,
which is good.
Google Plus. Yeah.
Google and Pinterest duke it out, and I'm happy for them to like have the battle. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Who will get there first?
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay, I want to. We've come to the final question,
okay,
which is sometimes my favorite question. I love everything we've discussed, but this one gives that little insight into who you are, and that is, tell us about your most memorable adventure, whether it's business, travel, whatever, personal.
Okay,
whatever it is.
Adventure. I'm going to say my biggest adventure is being married because it's the thing that I've done the longest in my life. I've been married for almost 25 years, which is a really long time. So
congratulations.
Thank you. It's one of those things, like it's just like everything else in life. It evolves and changes, and you know, you go through all these different stages of like newlyweds, and they have little babies, and you have kids, and then thankfully you survive the teenage years, or they survive the teenage years with you, whichever way that goes. So for me, it's a really great adventure, and it's just, you know, it's just fun. I mean, my husband and I have gone through so many stages together, and now we're like at the stage where we can like go off to Europe for a couple weeks, and you know, it's great. So I'm going to say that's a great adventure. It's an adventure in learning how to communicate, be a better person. So for me,
excellent.
I will say Rich.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, because I agree. Marriage is an adventure. So I want to circle back to the very beginning before we wrap this up, because I want to give you an opportunity to tell a little bit about the book that you're writing with Guy Kawasaki, and when that's coming out and what people can expect, and because I know you're working on the book launch and all that, and you know, we need to get that plug in.
Okay, so the book is The Art of Social Media, Power Tips for Power Users. It will be out in December. We will be sharing, Guy and I will both be sharing things on our social media, so look for that. I'm working on the website for that. That's not live yet. So when we have information that you can click on and get more information, Google Plus will be the first place that you will see it after I pin it on Pinterest.
So it'll be the second place.
It'll really be the second place, but there'll be way more information on Google+.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and what's the best place? Well, you probably answered that, but where can people find you?
Well, Google Plus is the best place to talk. You know, I love Pinterest, but for me, it's like a little quiet. I just like to go pin things there. It's a little quiet. You can message, but I never do it. So Google
Mhm.
Plus is a great place to find me. I'm here, Twitter. But, you know, I'm around. Whatever your favorite place is, I'm probably there too. So
Okay, excellent. So, Peg, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate, hearing your little tips and tricks. I was hoping we'd get some little tips in there, and we did. We got a doozy. So that I'm going to be implementing personally. Folks, you can get Adventures in Visibility if you'd like to get notice of it in advance of guests. Wow, I'm just stumbling all over myself today. If you'd like advance notice of the guests that are coming up on Adventures in Visibility, you can sign up at adventuresinvisibility.com. If you prefer to listen on the go, Adventures in Visibility is a podcast as well, and you can sign up for that or subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud at adventuresinvisibilitypodcast.com. So again, Peg, thank you so much. I have so enjoyed our conversation, and I'll see you around the web. Have an adventurous day, everyone.
thanks for having me.